Well, it's a real pleasure to say welcome back to the BTCC commentary box. Ben Edwards, good to see you here at Snetterton. Why now, Ben?
Thank you, Steve. Well, it's been fun. It was something. I lived near Snetterton, so it is my local track, and I got asked over the winter whether I would be up for doing this event. And I'm doing bits and pieces now. I'm not commentating full time as I used to. But I like doing different things, and I thought, I'll give it a go and see how it goes. So it's been fun to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, you look like you're enjoying it. It's been an interesting weekend so far, weather-wise, and of course the new tyre choices and the hybrid on the two long straights here. It's a lot to think about.
There is, yes, and actually I have to say that first race went very well. Jake Hill dominated the first of the touring car races, but we had some good battles further on. I was impressed by how Tom Ingram was able to make as much ground. He didn't qualify well yesterday, but he made good ground today. And I think when we get into the tyres, as you say, because the top 10 from that race will have to run the hard tyre, and looking at what Josh Cook did on the hard, he looked as though he struggled. So I think we could see a real turnaround in the second race. It'd be fascinating to see how that works.
Yeah, everybody thought we were going to be talking about the hybrid, but I think tyre choices and weather are going to be the factors this weekend.
Absolutely, and of course if we get rain that messes up the tyre choice straight away, so they'll be on wets, but let's wait and see. It makes it interesting, and being here at Snetterton is always fun.
Now, you're no stranger to the BTCC, but you remember your first BTCC coverage?
My first BTCC coverage, well, it was a while ago. When I was sort of covering it when I started covering for TV, was in 2002. And I had done a little bit at Brands Hatch before that as a sort of assistant. Brian Jones, who was the commentator, I used to help him out a little bit. But, it's been a while.
How much has it changed in that period? I mean, we've been through the old era and then the sort of what they call a modern era and the new generation touring cars, and now what we have with the hybrid. How much has it changed, Ben?
It's still touring cars. It's still touring cars. I mean, it's of course, it's shifted a bit in different ways over the years, and how it's done. But actually, I think fundamentally, it's still very much the same. It's about getting the best out of a car that looks like a car that drives on the road, is actually a race car. Modifications allowed to a certain level, and yes, I know that gets more complicated over the years. But I think actually, with the hybrid thing. I know it's been a bit more complicated and it's taken a little while to get it really good, but I think they've done a really good job with it now. Now that they've doubled up the power on the hybrid, the effect of it is very strong, and therefore it really makes a difference. And the teams and drivers now really have to get their heads around when to use it, when not to use it, and that's clever. And I like that sort of input of something that is now a little bit more technical. I also quite like the fact that the weight system used to work well, but of course that would change the handling of the car. Now the handling of the car stays; they can keep it always the same, and they can perfect it, and I quite like that too. I like the fact that the handling of the car they can make as good as they like without changing the weight, yet the power they get will vary depending on how well they do in the results.
It was important with the developments to make sure it wasn't just technology for technology's sake, wasn't it? The fans had to see a difference.
Absolutely, and I do think that's worked well with hybrid. I think, yes, it's a technology that's important nowadays that we all have to absorb, that electrical power is a key part, whether we're still driving our petrols or diesels at the moment. So it is important, but it is also good to see that it is adding to the racing, and I think it is now. I think when it was at less hybrid power, it wasn't making such a difference, but now it is definitely making a difference.
What about the drivers from, what should we say, back in the day? I mean, we had Steve Sopers, we had Ivan Muller and Jason Plato was in there, and John Cleland. Do we still have the same sort of characters in the championship?
I suppose it's slightly different, but you're always going to get that a rollover of different drivers at different times. And I do think we've got some brilliant stars. I mean, Colin Turkington is that well-established star who's been there. And I remember commentating on his first title. He's got 4 now, and he's still in the fight, which is so impressive to see him doing what he's doing. So he's one of your really well-established drivers, like some of the ones you were mentioning. But we've got, I think, a very high-quality pack of drivers. I mean, Ash Sutton is stunning to watch. Tom Ingram, a champion already. Jake Hill, surely a champion at some point in the future. He's brilliant as well. And not just them, I think there's a depth of level. And in touring cars, that's always something that I've enjoyed seeing. That, you have a bit of a range. You don't have all of them necessarily at the very highest level. But I do think right now, where we are in 24, even though there are slightly fewer cars on the grid, I do think that the quality level is still very high.
Just motorsports in general, Ben. Obviously, we've seen a move towards E-Series coming in. I mean, motorsport has come through COVID and all the challenges of the cost of going racing. It feels like it's in a good place, though.
It's certainly better, I think. I mean, it looks as though it's getting more numbers. There are decent grids out there. I think, of course, the COVID era had a big hit on everybody and everything. So it's great to see that we are more back to the normal pattern. And as you say, I think it's doing well. I think cost is still difficult, though, because cost for everybody in life has gone up quite a lot, and that would be the same in motor racing. And introducing hybrid is not a cheap thing to do. You've got technical advances that require more money. So cost, I think, is still a major aspect. And for junior drivers, I do feel for them too, getting involved in single-seater racing, even at a Formula 4 level, is a lot of money. So that is one of the tougher sides.
Just finally, because I know you've got to get back to duties in a moment, I've interrupted your lunch. What else is on the cards for you? What's filling your diary?
Quite a lot of different types of things. So what I'm enjoying is mixing between different things now. I'm still doing a bit of Formula 1. I commentated on the Imola Grand Prix last weekend for Radio 5 Live. I'm doing a couple more for them. I'll be doing Silverstone from Silverstone, so that's fun. But I'm also doing Goodwood, historic events. I find that interesting, picking up about some of the cars that raced long before I even came along. So that's fun. I'm just sort of mixing it all up a little bit at the moment.
Fantastic. Really good to see you, and I hope we see you again soon.
Thank you, Steve.